Hello everyone and welcome to Valamore Things. Feel free to follow me to see more of my content. Thank you and I hope you'll enjoy the video. Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna talk about Aetherdrift, the pretty new expansion. It's gonna be released like in 10 days or so next week. So we're gonna talk about playable cards for the modern format, as we usually do for every single new expansion that gets released. So, first off, if you're not subscribed yet, please do it because it will help me a lot. It takes a lot of effort to make some videos, a lot of time, so please subscribe to the channel because it's very useful. Thank you and thank you for watching. Back to us, we're gonna start by reviewing random utilities. Here we go. So here we are talking about, as I said, random utilities. What are random utilities? What's the meaning of these two words? These are cards that might see play in certain situations that are similar to other cards and mostly are hate pieces. So we have Skyseer's Chariot, a 2-mana artifact vehicle. Flying, as this vehicle enters, choose a non-land card name. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name cost 2 more to activate, crew 2. So this reminds me of Anointed Peacekeeper or the artifact that costs 2 mana and I don't really remember the name right now, I'm sorry. That basically does the same thing. I just think Skyseer's Chariot is worse, but I put it here because you can actually bring it back via Goblin Engineer or, you know, other reanimating things that gets your artifacts back from the graveyard. So might actually be useful, but I don't really think this will see any play at all, but that's an interesting ability for a 2-mana vehicle artifact with flying. Next we have Fuel the Flames, 3 mana instant speed. Fuel the Flames deals 2 damage to each creature, and this has cycling. That's a straight up upgrade, in my opinion, to Pyroclasm, because you have cycling in case you don't need this, and that's instant speed, so you can do it before attacker step into opponent's turn or end of turn, whatever. And you're gonna have your mana free in your turn, so that's a huge upgrade compared to Pyroclasm. And this will probably see some play in certain situations. Next we have Broken Wings. So 3 mana instant speed, green. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. So that's very versatile. This reminds me of Pole Patch Formation, which is a 2 mana instant speed. It gets you destroy a creature with flying, or destroy target enchantment, or draw a card and create a food token. I still think Pole Patch Formation is probably better, but Broken Wings is, you know, more versatile. 3 mana is a lot, so probably no one will play this except for me, maybe in my Tortoise deck against, you know, Oculus. Yeah, by the way, probably won't see any play, but that's a good versatile card. Next we have probably the best in these 5 cards, which is Intimidation Tactics. 1 black mana sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand, you choose an artifact or creature card from it, exile that card. Cycling 3. So I always love when discard spells have cycling, because this means that late game, when you probably won't discard anything relevant, you just cycle that away. And I think that's a direct upgrade to Dreams of Steel and Oil. I would probably play Intimidation Tactics over Dreams of Steel and Oil every single time. Dreams of Steel and Oil can exile 2 things. Intimidation Tactics only 1, but this has cycling, so it's probably straight up better. We have another interesting removal, 2 mana sorcery removal, which is Quag Fist. 1 colorless, 1 black sorcery. Choose target creature, planeswalker or vehicle. Mill 2 cards and that's why I put that here, because Mill 2 might be very effective in many new decks. Mill 2 cards can destroy the chosen permanent if its mana value is less than or equal to the number of cards in your graveyard. So here I put Legion's End just because that's a 2 mana sorcery removal. They do different things, but you know, that's the first thing I thought of to compare it. Quackfist, yeah. It's probably not gonna see any play, but the Mill 2 cards might actually be irrelevant, so pay attention to this because this might see play. So, next page. Interesting cards. What does that mean? That these cards might see play. They are not utilities, just interesting cards on their own. We have Repurposing Bay, which is the same thing as Oswald Fiddlebender, but that's not a creature, so it's harder to remove. And you don't need white mana to activate it, but 2 colorless. What it does is sacrifice another artifact, search your library for an artifact card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed artifact mana value. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Activate only as a sorcery. So if you get to sacrifice like Thought Monitor or Frog Mirror Enforcer, Sojourner's Companion, you get to look into your library for an 8 mana cost artifact, which might be, I don't know, Sundering Titan. There are actually many, I don't really remember the name, but the one that when comes into play destroy a permanent. There are many 8 mana rare or mythic rare artifacts that are actually pretty good. So I can see this card being played like 1-2 copies in a somehow sort of top tier Foundry Affinity deck. When you have a few toolboxes to get out of this card. The problem is that today the hate towards artifacts because of Timor Breach, it's just too much to play things like this. Well, next, Green Bubble, 1 black mana. When this artifact enters, target creature and opponent control gets -2/-2 until end of turn. So this is an artifact that sticks on the battlefield and also is a removal. And has this little upside, 3 mana tap, Survey 2. This reminds me of Blood Fontaine, which is very similar. It's just that Blood Fontaine generates 2 artifacts, while this generates only 1, but is a removal. So I can see this being played alongside probably Portable Hole. The thing is that in the modern metagame today, this thing is effective probably only against Boros Energy. This does absolutely nothing against Eldrazi, absolutely nothing against Dimir Froklus, and mostly nothing even against Timor Breach, because this won't kill Tamio, this will kill only Emery, so no point in playing it. So we'll probably see close to 0 play, but I like the card. I like the idea of having a 1 mana artifact removal. Same as Portable Hole. Next one, Pact Doll Terror. That's a 4 mana artifact in black. It's a 3/4. Whenever this creature enters, or another artifact you control enters, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So on its own does nothing. Well, it drains for 1, but in a deck like when you play Cookbook and Cauldron Familiar and Witch's Oven, this is gonna drain the opponent for a lot. You have 1-2 Cookbooks, 1 Witch's Oven, you drain for like 4-8 turn. The only thing is that this guy costs 4 and will immediately die to, you know, Static Prison, Galvanic Discharge, and whatever. So, and the thing is that you cannot really play artifacts right now because you will get Wrath of the Sky, Stony Silence, and Kozilek Return. You will get all of that into your face, so it's really hard to play artifacts nowadays. But maybe one day the metagame will shift and you might be able to play 1 or 2 Pact Doll Terror. I don't think this is gonna happen, honestly, but you know, maybe. The last one is Daretti Rocketeer Engineer. That's a 5 mana. So, red, legendary creature, Goblin Artificer. Daretti's power is equal to the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. But that's not the thing we're looking for. So, whenever Daretti enters or attacks, so not only when this enters, choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may sacrifice an artifact. If you do, return the chosen card to the battlefield. So it's a walking trash for treasure, which is a very good card that I love. Haven't seen much play in Modern, almost no play at all. But this thing, 1-2 copies in, you know, a Goblin Artificer red and blue artifact deck might actually be good. You can reanimate very huge things with this. The Sphinx of Steel Wind, I don't know. Many huge artifacts, that 8 mana artifacts I was talking before when talking about repurposing Bay. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with this. The only thing is that this costs 5 mana. So you kind of want to go like on the late game. You need Mox Opal probably. You need Springleaf Drum to be able to cast this sooner. Mox Ember, I don't know. But you will need a mana boost to be able to play this before the game is over. So yeah. Next page, what do we have? Yeah, we're gonna talk about the Affinity for Artifacts card that they just print. So we have Memory Guardian, which is one of the first art that was spoiled for this expansion. This reminds me of the Dragon Ball capsule that Vegeta and Nappa used to go to Earth, kind of, but this thing has legs. By the way, 5 mana, 1 is blue. Affinity, flying, that's a 3/4. So that's a straight up upgrade from Somber Overguard. And even the art somehow looks the same. Not the same, but I mean, that's... Somber Overguard is really weird. Well, whatever. So that's a pretty decent... So as I was saying, that's a pretty decent mana cost. 5 mana with Affinity for Artifacts can go down on turn 2 with a bit of luck, and that's a 3/4 beater with flying. That's super good, that's super sweet. I think that if I ever going back to Affinity when Mox Opal prices drop a bit, I will 100% play this guy. Next we have Demonic Junker. 7 mana vehicle, 4/3 with Crew 2 and Affinity for Artifacts. So that's really interesting. When this vehicle enters, for each player, destroy up to 1 target creature that players control. If a creature you control this way was destroyed, put 2+1/+1 counters on this vehicle. So for 7 mana, you get a 4/3 vehicle, Crew 2, and you get to blow up one of opponent's creatures. That's really, really good. I mean, 7 mana is probably a lot, but sometimes Affinity just felt like you couldn't apply pressure while keeping the board on check. So this solves both problems, because you can crew this guy with a Thought Monitor or 2 Memnites or whatever. When this enters, straight up kills one of your opponent's creatures. Murktide, gone. Oculus, gone. Frog, gone. So yeah, Demonic Junker is a decent rare, and I hopefully expect this to be played in 1 or 2 copies in Affinity. Does nothing on its own. It's a 7 mana removal, but paired with something else, it's a 7 mana 4/3 removal, which is kind of good. And then we have Voyage Home. 7 mana, 5 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue. Affinity for Artifacts. You draw 3 cards and you gain 3 life. So that's a podcast under steroids. I don't love that because you cannot do that on turn 2, probably. But draw 3 cards and gain 3 life in a metagame where Orcish Bowmaster is almost non-existent? Wow. I'm gonna try that. You can bet I'm gonna try this. I just want Mox Opal, and I cannot afford that, but Voyage Home sounds really, really, really cool. For real. Probably playing it all day over podcast. Depending on the list, if we have 4 Mox Opal, 4 Springleaf Drum, and Emery, and etc., probably yes. But in a list with just Mox Opal as acceleration, probably not. But this looks promising. 3 cards are a lot, and you also gain 3 life, which is relevant in a metagame field with Boros. Yeah, can't wait to try this card. What do we have next? So these are minor additions or more of the same or, kind of cards. Let's start with Thopter Fabricator. This 3 mana artifact vehicle with Crew 2, 4/4 flying. So nice body, you can enable this really easily. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creator token with flying. This reminds me of Jolrael Monvuli Recluse. That said, whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 green cat creator. But that was a green card, so not that good. It needed to be blue, and also a 1/2 that dies to everything. So Jolrael was not it, really. But Thopter Fabricator, when you can play Consider, Serum Visions, or a lot of cantrips and even other ways to draw 2 cards, Tamio, whatever. You can make actually a lot of colorless Thopter artifact with flying. And you can create this easily with the Thopters you make. And that's a huge beater for flying. So keep an eye on that. Probably not playable, but that's interesting. Keep an eye on that. Yeah, this also reminds me of Sai Massive Thopter. That's almost if Jolrael and Sile fuse together, and you get whenever you draw your second card, you create a Thopter, same as Sai, and you get the mana cost of Sai and the color of Sai. Probably Sai is still better than this guy, but yeah, interesting card. After that, we have The Last Ride, one of the most talked cards from the spoilers. Basically, that's a vehicle Death Shadow with a little upside, meaning that if you pay 3 and 2 life, you get to draw a card, pumping this guy on its own. Crew 2. So that's interesting, but I don't get why I should play The Last Ride over Death Shadow in a Death Shadow deck when I don't really have many creatures, so it's gonna be hard for it to be crewed. I don't know, surely that's interesting, and the art is very, very good. I mean, look at this. That's sick. That's really sick. The Last Ride. That's sick. Yeah, I don't know about this. Surely that's an interesting card worth talking about, but that's just not it, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is very good, but I don't see immediate ways to use this, to exploit this. Just play that Shadow, I guess. Well, after that, Thunderous Velocipede. How do you say that in English? Velocipede? Velocipede? I have no idea. Let me know in the comments. By the way, 3 mana, 5/5 trample, crew 3. Each other vehicle and creature you control enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if its mana value is 4 or less. Otherwise, it enters with 3 additional +1/+1 counter on it. So that's a walking hardened scales, mostly. Not that good because it only says when enters. But I don't know, they might want to play one. It's a good beater on its own. I don't know. I just thought about this. You know, +1/+1 thing, additional +1/+1 thing. That's hardness scales thing. Is it worth playing? No idea, but that's just my guess. And after that we have Marketback Walker. Oh gosh, I really needed another Ballista or Hangarback. I think that's the worst of the three, this thing. When this creature dies, draw a card for each +1/+1 counter on it. But you cannot really remove +1/+1 counters from this. But I can see pumping this thing a lot and then sacrificing this to an Arcbound Ravager and draw like 6 cards. So maybe 1 or 2 copies in Hardness Scales could be great. I think that Ballista and Hangarback are just... This is just a win more thing. These two are just straight up better. After that we have the Aetherspark, the first legendary artifact planeswalker, which is also an equipment. That's the whole thing. The whole expansion is based off this Aetherspark. Basically, the lore of Aetherdrift is a Grand Prix, like Ghirapur Grand Prix or something, where 10 different teams. In one team you have Nissa, in another one you have Jace, I think, and in another one you have Chandra. And Chandra and Nissa are probably together, by the way. So all these planeswalkers are competing to get the Aetherspark, because it's said that the Aetherspark, which is the final prize of the Grand Prix, the Aetherspark could give your planeswalker spark back. I don't know if this is just a legend or what, but the planeswalkers that lost their spark against Nicol Bolas are now competing to get the Aetherspark to get their own spark back. So, by the way, what is the Aetherspark doing? That's a 4 mana for loyalty artifact. As long as the Aetherspark is attached to a creature, the Aetherspark can't be attacked and has, whenever equip a creature this combat damage during your turn, put that many loyalty counters on the Aetherspark. This combat damage, not a player, not a planeswalker, combat damage during your turn, put that many loyalty counters on the Aetherspark. +1, you attach the Aetherspark to up to 1 target creature you control and you put a +1/+1 on that creature. -5, draw 2. -10, add 10 mana of any color. So I think you can grab this with Stoneforge Mystic. And there aren't really many Stoneforge Mystic decks in these days. I mean, probably 0. But this thing can probably revive the Stoneforge Mystic archetype. The Aetherspark is good. These pump creatures you have, you can switch it from one creature to another, and this will draw you a huge amount of cards pretty soon. So this might see play in Modern. I don't really know what's the best way to exploit this yet, but this will absolutely see play. Absolutely, I'm not sure about that, but this will probably see play. Next, what do we have? Reanimating stuff. Okay, I love talking about reanimating stuff. The first thing is Broodheart Engine, an uncommon. 1 black, 1 green artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, survey 1. So basically this does absolutely nothing when it enters the battlefield, and I don't like this. Okay, I don't like cards that do nothing when they hit the battlefield. 2 colorless, 1 black, 1 green. You sacrifice the Broodheart Engine. Return a target creature or vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. So that's a walking capsule of reanimation. You can play this, survey whenever you want, and when you need it, Pam, 4 mana, reanimate, and you can put... It's better than Persist because you can reanimate legendary creatures and with no -1/-1 counters. I mean, yeah, 2 mana plus 4 mana, but these also have this passive that surveys 1, so survey is good, so I don't really know. That's surely interesting. I can see this being played in 2-3 copies. Turn 2, turn 1, discard spell, turn 2, this, turn 3, grist, you mill 1. Turn 4, you reanimate something. I don't know. This might actually see play, but that's nothing spectacular. So, Bright Glass Gearhawk. So in this set we have Gearhawks back because we are on Kaladesh. Now Kaladesh has another name, which is probably Avishkar, I guess. But yeah, Bright Glass Gearhawk. 2 green, 2 white. First strike, trample, 4/4. So on its own, it's a pretty huge, decent beater. When this creature enters, you may search your library for up to 2 target artifact creatures and or enchantment cards with mana value 1 or less. Reveal them and put them into your hand. So what can you do is, this is very flexible. You can grab a lot of stuff. You can grab combo pieces like Luxior Jada's Gift, Viscera Seer, Cauldron Familiar, Sylvan Safekeeper, I don't know, many combo pieces. And even Graveyard Hate, this can grab a Radic of Progenitus, a Tormod Script, or whatever. So it's very flexible. But you can also grab removals like Static Prison, Portable Hole. So this might actually be a very good card. I can see this card being played in like 2 or 3 copies alongside the Ranger that I don't remember the name, the 3 mana Ranger that gets you a creature with mana value 1. I mean, Ocelot Pride, Guide of Souls, this thing here, Witch Enchanter, Birthing Ritual, Renegade Valor, Static Prison, I don't know, all this stuff, you know. This could be interesting. This can be a great deck. And also this guy is a huge beater, so you actually get 3 cards out of 1 for 4 mana and a huge beater. And you can grab artifact, creature, and enchantments. That's very good, very flexible. I love this. The next one is Coldstock Gearhawk. This costs 1 colorless mana more than the Bright Glass. 2 black and 2 red. Menace that at 5/4. When this creature enters, put target creature card from with mana value 4 or less from a graveyard, so not only ours, but even the opponent's, under your control with a finality counter on it. That creature gains Menace, that touch, and haste. At the beginning of your next endest, exile that creature. So you can reanimate like Lightning's Elemental, and I mean for 5 mana, I hope you can do something better. You tap 5 mana, you get a counter spell on your Thief, and you concede. I don't know, this will probably not see play, but I love the idea of Rakdos reanimating stupid stuff like Lightning's Elemental, but this is so... I don't think this is gonna happen at all, but, you know, that's still an interesting card, and I also love the art. Apart from that, we have Dredger's Insight. That's a 1 colorless, 1 green enchantment, uncommon. Whenever 1 or more artifact and or creature cards leave your graveyard, you gain 1 life. So that's a sustain engine. When this enchantment enters, you mill 4 cards. You may put an artifact, creature, or land from among the mill cards into your hand. So this works similar to Rumble, Malevolent Rumble. But that's an enchantment with little upside. I don't know. These paired with like Insidious Roots and other stuff, other similar stuff, Malevolent Rumble, Cage Grab, they will trigger like every single turn. You're gonna gain life, you're gonna create some plant tokens. I should build something with Insidious Roots once more. You guys loved it. By the way, that's borderline playable in some strange Delirium archetypes. I don't know. Probably, yes. Yes, probably just for Delirium. I don't know. The next one for reanimating stuff is Molt Tender. That's 1 green mana, 1/1 insect druid, and that's why this card is on my radar, because that's an insect. So you tap and you mill a card. Not only this mills a cards, but also if you tap and exile a card from your graveyard, you will add 1 mana of any color. So this reminds me of that guy that it's banned. Oh gosh, Deathrite Shaman. Well, of course, it's not as close as Deathrite Shaman, but the ability to generate mana through exiling cards in your graveyard is very good. And also, this pairs really well with Insidious Roots, because if you exile a creature, you're gonna get a plant and you're gonna get 1 mana, and you're gonna gain 1 life. So, as you can see, they all kind of combo together. They're all little value engines, you see. And when you get so much little value engines, if you combine them together, they're gonna bring you a huge amount of value, and they're gonna win you games. So I'm not gonna say this is a Tier 1 deck, but by the way, Insect. Why is this so important? Because maybe this will finally enable Grist and the other Little Grist and Big Grist to finally become a thing, because they lacked insects. Because with Grist, if you mill an insect, you mill another one. With Little Grist, I haven't put the flipped version, but this interacts with how many insects you have in graveyard and in your deck. So this is a very interesting card to build around. And combining all of this together, it's already a deck taking shape. So I will probably work on it. What do we have next? Okay, so Simic nonsense plus good additions. Okay. Subsunan Luxa Embodied. So that's a 5 mana Simic god. I'm not saying that this is as broken and as the cards I put down here. Of course it's not. But we all know what happens when they print a mythic Simic god or Simic planeswalker or Simic, mythic rare. Usually this ends up being banned straight up after a few months. But this costs 5 mana, so perhaps it's not the case. Let's read this card. Reach, Trample, Indestructible. So that's a huge beater. Subsunan cannot attack or block unless it has an even number of counters on it. 0 is even, so when you play this, you can block with this. At the beginning of your first main phase, put a +1/+1 counter on Subsunan. Then, if it has an odd number of counters, and at the first time this triggers, this will have an odd number of counters, you draw 2 cards. So, you play this big frog god. What the fuck? I mean, okay. Maybe someone likes the genre, but it's not really my type of thing. Well, we're not talking about that right now. Yes, so you get this guy. He can block with this guy. This goddess cannot block. Can block, cannot attack. Next turn, you draw 2 cards, and you can attack. And you cannot attack. The very next turn, so the 3rd turn, you get another counter, you're up to 2, and you can attack. Then the 4th turn, this will draw another 2 cards. So I don't know if this thing is playable. Maybe in some Omnath 5-color huge penta control with Solitude and stuff and whatever. This can be a huge finisher somehow. I don't know. Just keep an eye on that, because we know how we will end up with, Simic nonsense. Next we have Loot the Pathfinder. This is the most talked about card in the previews. Why? Not because it's a 5 mana, 3 specific, 2 for double strike Vigilant Haste, which is very good. in my opinion, it's a very good body. But because of his abilities, if you get this thing into the graveyard and exile it with Agatha's Soul's Cauldron, you can give all of his activated abilities to all the creatures you control with a +1/+1 counter on them. And as you can see, this will actually snowball into oblivion like instantly. You can tap the first one, add mana, and draw 3 cards with the other one, and play the cards you just draw with the mana you just added. As you can... Okay, stay calm. This is gonna be interesting. This is gonna be huge, and probably one of the first thing they're going to try, other creators, because that's just very, very good. And also, Loot is not that bad of a creature on its own, so you can even try to play this thing and play with it, because it has Vigilance, Haste, and Double Strike, so that's huge. This guy is huge, and also probably the cutest ever printed Magic in history. So that's the obvious combo here. Next is Whole Squad Heavy. That's a straight up upgrade of Goblin Rebel Master, because other goblins you control have haste. So yeah, very good. Goblin Rebel Master didn't give haste to anyone, but this guy will. And if you hit max speed, you can add like a huge amount of mana probably that you can spend in many ways. Goblin Matron, grab something, combo off. The only problem with goblins and all other tribal decks, maybe except for Merfolk, is that they eat the same 8 that Boros Energy eats. So you're gonna play... Are you gonna play a tribal deck like Goblin or Elves or Sleevers or whatever in a metagame where 20% of the metagame is Eldrazi that packs 3 main deck copies of... Was that Kozilek's Return? Yeah, probably. 3 main deck copies. You have to be brave to do so. You're gonna lose 1 out of your 5 league matches. No contest. And then you're gonna play against, I don't know, Timur Breach, and they're gonna just combo you off on turn 2 or turn 3. You can do nothing because you're sitting there with your Titania's Priest or your Whole Squad Heavy doing absolutely nothing. No, it's just not playable. But this guy might give a minimum boost to goblins. I don't know. What do we have next? Finally, the best card of the expansion. And I think this is straight up broken, in my opinion. Ketramos, the New Dawn. So that's a god, not that frog we saw before. Well, that's a 3 mana god. 1 colorless, 1 white, 1 black. Menace, lifelink, indestructible. So very good beater. 4/4 for 3 mana, very good. Ketramos can't attack or block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile, counting both your opponents and you. So it's very easy to trigger these on turn 3 or even turn 4 if you are playing the right supporting cards. And as you can see, there are so many things. But the most broken ability is whenever one or more cards are put into exile from graveyards and or the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. So this guy's straight up infinite drawing with Bag of Holding and Psychic Frog. Because Bag of Holding says, whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. With Psychic Frog, you can discard as many cards as you want. So you discard a card with Psychic Frog, this gets exiled from your graveyard, you draw a card. You discard a card with the frog, gets exiled, draw another one, and so on. And you can draw, yeah, you also lose 1 life, but as long as you have life, you can draw as many cards as you want. I'm not saying that this is actually a thing, but this might be. And also, if you have this guy into play, you go Solitude, you exile, I don't know, sowing everything, you exile something, you draw 1. Ephemerate, you exile something else, you draw 1. Okay, I'm gonna attack with Thalia, blinking Aether Vial, I draw 1. And you already drew 3 cards and removed 2 cards. This thing is broken. This thing is busted and will give birth to a brand new archetype, very similar to the Hordes of Blink we have right now, but more focused on exiling cards from the graveyard. And also, Graveyard Hate is very, very, very good right now against Timur Breach, and also borderline against Boros, and also against Eldrazi. So also against Oculus. So against all the 4-5 tire decks that are in the format right now, this Graveyard Hate is very good. And this guy preys on Graveyard Hate. So in my opinion, this is straight up busted and will give birth to a new tire deck. I might be wrong, I'm usually wrong, but this guy here, if you want to buy a playset, do it as soon as possible, because this will skyrocket into oblivion the price of this card. That is just insanely good. Everything you see here, they are all good cards already being played in the format, and they all synergize well with this card. Sometimes when you play like Orzhov Death and Taxes, what you lack is actually a good value engine, okay? You don't draw many cards, and sometimes you're left with 1 or 2 cards, and you're just there with your Thalia blinking things, and you don't really know what to do. With this guy here, you're gonna draw so many cards, and you're gonna gain so much life. You're gonna be unbeatable. This is also indestructible. The only way to get rid of this guy is probably Static Prison or Leyline Binding. But you have the answers to that in your deck, so this is straight up insanely good. We're not done yet. I know it's a long video, we're not done yet. Many things to talk about. But this card, straight up busted. So I have the Chef's Special here. So probably one of the 2 favorite cards that are in this expansion, in my opinion. Marauding Mako. This is a shark pirate. This reminds me of Jeff from Marvel Rivals, you know, Jeff the Land Shark. So whenever you discard 1 or more cards, put that many +1/+1 counters on this creature. So turn 1, Marauding Mako. That's okay. Turn 2, Goblin Lore. Boom. This guy becomes a 4/4. Okay. And maybe you can play a few Hollow ones in the process, or you can reanimate a Phoenix in the process. So that's very good. Same goes for Monument to Endurance. That's a 3 mana artifact. So that's actually a lot of mana for doing nothing on its own the very turn it comes into the battlefield. But whenever you discard a card, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Draw a card, create a treasure token, each opponent loses 3 life. So this synergizes very well with all the cards that are down here. For example, I have this card and I play Burning Inquiry. I draw 1, I get a treasure, and each opponent loses 3 life. I have Liliana of the Veil into the battlefield. I +1, opponent loses 3 life, or I get a card, or whatever it's the best for me. So it's very flexible and very good. You might have seen my Tiny Bones video I published like 1 month ago. This card is perfect for that archetype and fills some slots that were still to be decided. And also with Dark Deal, it's very, very good. You're gonna generate so much value. It's very similar to Waste Not, but probably better because it's when you discard a card, so you have many ways to choose when to discard a card. Also, with Psychic Frog, you discard a land, I draw one. And also not only my turn, but opponent's turn, end of turn, discard a land, boom, Lightning Bolt. With Psychic Frog, that's just very, very good. 3 life is a lot. Burning Inquiry, Psychic Frog, all cards that are already being played that synergizes well with this card. Other than that, we have Regal Imperiosaur. So, I know some of you don't really like that side of me, but whenever I see big green creatures, I just instantly fall in love. Regal Imperiosaur, and look at the art, by the way, look at this art. This is very sick. Look at this guy here, it's massive. 3 mana for a 4, so for a 5/4, order dinosaurs you control gets +1/+1. I will surely build a Dino Tribal for Modern. I played Vampire, I played a lot of tribals, elves, humans, goblins. I will build a Regal Imperiosaur centered deck, 100%. Stay tuned. So these cards are cute, probably even playable. We'll see what I will be able to get out of this. And last but not least, look at the art of this new Bloodcast. My god, look at this guy. This looks like my mother's dog. I don't have a picture right now, but Vampire Spirit, so I'm not entirely sure how this is a Vampire Spirit, but this looks so cute. I will definitely be playing Bloodcast more just because of the art. That's just too good. I'm gonna grab my foil playset in real life for sure. Well, that's all for today, guys. Thank you for staying with me in this long video. There might be other cards playable in this set, and probably 90% of the caps we just talked about will never see play, not in my decks, nor in other creators' decks. We'll never see play, probably, as usual. But I love talking about new cards, and in general, I think there are many good cards in this expansion. I don't really like the dam of this expansion, by the way. All of this Grand Prix thing, it's not really my thing, but there are many good and interesting cards. So thank you for staying with me, as I previously said, and yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Remember to subscribe down here, please, to my channel. This will help me a lot. Have a nice day and see you in the next video very soon.